Hi, we are live from Flow Festival, Helsinki.
Shut up and sit down.
Okay, so it is Flow Festival weekend. We're in Helsinki, Finland, and we are at Sompa Sauna. We just had an interview, got a little bit of information on sauna culture here in Finland, where it came from, where it might go in the future. I think the main takeaway I got from that is, hey, can you make these saunas cheap and temporary and in all the wastelands and have them show up as art pieces all over Helsinki and around Finland? That sounds like a great idea to me. It sounds like people get together, they relax, they talk about what's possible, and people need that thing. So
anyone can show up. I love the idea of it being a city art installation.
Yeah, and free, right? Yeah. Maybe it becomes the new distributed town hall.
Gifting culture or something.
Yeah.
Actually, that sound like another sauna over there was an art sauna before.
Okay.
So it was like people donated dolls and they attached dolls on its walls.
That was the voice of Anssi. Anssi is going to be up a little bit later to talk to you all, and he'll be giving a little bit of color on what's going down today. I am sitting next to a man called Lewis Horn, and Lewis answered the call when I said, come join me at Flow Festival. We did you're gonna hear from my man Rupe later. Rupe, actually, I answered the call when he invited me down to Helsinki to speak at Flow Festival yesterday at the Urban Life Festival. We rocked that out pretty well. And Lewis answered the call too, and he came down from Lund University, and he runs the Open Innovation Center. We'll talk a little bit about that, and then we'll talk about Unity.
I run the social innovation part of the Open Innovation Center. Just to be
social innovation. Okay. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that, and then I'm going to ask you about the new Pro Lab that you're building as well. And the relationship is that there is a global design factory network at Aalto University, which is where Anssi's a student. I think it's really interesting to think about these networks as well and what's happening in maker culture. And then we're going to talk sci-fi spaceship with wheels then.
Yeah, so the Open Innovation Center based at Lund University is all about leveraging the resources, intellectual resources of one of the biggest research universities in Europe, the biggest university in Scandinavia. Leveraging all that and kind of engaging external actors in the triple helix, so your government, your private sector, and academia to kind of search for opportunities for radical disruptions or radical innovations that address grand challenges.
Yeah.
And the Social Innovation Center portion of that myself and some colleagues founded some years ago that I run there, it's all about, the same kind of radical innovation approach, but in a social, cultural, environmental context. So looking for innovations that can address challenges in these three sectors, which and not just for out of benevolence, but also because of the connection to the future of economics and so forth. If we're addressing these challenges at our core.
Yeah, for me, I don't know why every university isn't, like every department at every university isn't doing that, right?
There's a lot that are, but it is kind of a new thing. There's a lot that are, and we're connected with them right from Stanford, MIT, right across. There's a couple that are, but yeah, it is the applied research thing, and bringing stuff to the market faster and engaging external actors. It's kind of a new thing.
Yeah. I went to Arizona State University, and Thunderbird Arizona State, the president there, Mike Crow, about a year or two ago, decided that ASU would become the new American university, and that it would knock down silos between departments and focus on solving the world's problems. Brilliant. It's America's largest university, but I just love that leadership position. And then, I'm also a big fan of Singularity University in the Bay Area, and the way that they're taking on the
rock stars.
The challenges of the world and applying exponential technology.
And they're happy to go into weird directions and so forth. That's what I like. They go balls.
Yeah. So tell me about this Pro Lab you guys are building. I love the movement in the maker space. You guys have a little bit of a different take on the way that you're going to build this thing out and you're designing it. What's the thought behind that?
I mean, people like to work with their hands. People like to see real solutions to challenges straight away. The ProLab is not just a makerspace with 3D printers and CNC machines and so forth. It's also hacker space, software space. Just trying to be much more aggressive with our sort of go-to-market in terms of solving problems and so forth. So
Yeah.
it's kind of the angle that we take, as opposed to, for example, Fab Lab or one of them, is it's much less Yoda figurines and iPhone cases, and a little bit more what's the challenge driven, and come up with a solution and hack it out in real life, and openness at its core. I mean, all maker spaces, you got to be in some kind of clique or club, or you got to be a student, or you got to be something else like that. So that's the culture of just complete and utter openness, and see what we can come out with.
See, I would like to see. I hosted a panel of makers, artists. Tech Shop was on there. Maker Fair, Make Magazine, and basically I was saying, like, why isn't all maker spaces, maker fairs dedicated to just solving world problems right now? Enough with the figurines, right? Or the knickknacks.
Well, I mean, that's to get
cool,
people
but
started.
yeah.
Get people started, but I think, and you can rein people in, and you can attract people in easy. But at some point, you got to be able to say, all right, we don't want a shop full of figurines and so forth. Let's engage with some really big companies, some governments, some society, civil society, and so forth.
Yeah.
And just inspire people to be a little bit more radical with what we're trying to do.
Okay.
See if we can.
So yesterday, or maybe it was a couple days last week, I got inspired after meeting you a couple weeks ago about your new, I don't even know what to call it yet, vehicle project.
Call it a street spaceship for now.
A street spaceship. All right.
I mean, the whole idea of this thing is to just make something really different. Yes, it's going to be a company. Yes, it's going to be a car that you can buy, but that's not the objective. The objective is to create technology that's inspired by life, with economics as a tool for growth and not as a primary objective. Because when we have that as a primary objective, we end up with the scenario that we got today. So
what's the story behind Unity? Why does Unity need to exist, and why the name?
Wow, that's a big can of worms there, man. Okay, so Unity...
We only ask big questions here. That's one of our ground rules.
Let's start with why does it need to exist?
Yeah.
The first electric car was made in 1835. The first electric car that could go faster than 100 kilometers an hour was made in 1899. Not even last century, the century before. Now we're in a scenario today where more people die in cities from vehicle emissions than from breast cancer, car accidents, suicide, AIDS. No joke, go check it up. Study from MIT and a whole swag of others.
Yeah.
We're in a scenario today where you've got cities that are choked out by these gigantic 1.5 ton pieces of engineering, with one person driving around looking for a very expensive and very rare car parking space. It's just a terrible system that's the result of initially choosing that technology because it had a better business model, which was control the energy source and sell that to you, gasoline to you in increments. Much better business model than plug it in and charge it. And perhaps at that time we needed really good business models and really good economic growth.
Yeah.
So it's nothing against that technology and why we went that direction, but now it's really time to pivot because we have different standards. We have solutions to all of these problems. Listen to that baby in the background there.
Yeah.
That's old technology that's got to go, right? So when and there has been very many electric car companies over the last 100 years, but none of them really got the secret sauce right. Tesla was the first one to say, okay, we're not going to talk about zero emissions and eco and all that stuff. We're going to talk about the reality of what it is. Vastly better technology. We can make it faster, prettier, simpler. It's got a better profit margin. It's better just in every way.
Yeah.
So we need to create a pivot there. But why Unity needs to exist is because of this linear design and development approach that we've had ever since we made that initial choice to go with the internal combustion engine. So you had, back then you're developing cars based on, we've got a horse and buggy, that's what we know, and we slowly add on more and more and more features, try to jam more life into that same configuration, more functions and so forth, and you end up with what we have today.
Yeah.
So what we've decided to do is completely start again. Our industrial designers, if you talk to them, they just say, as any industrial designer, if you're going to start again with automotive, so skipping 100 years of path dependency, challenge every assumption, just forget every assumption and start again, you end up with, I mean, do you need pedals? Do you need a big plastic dashboard? Is that something that's needed in the car? There's just so much of it that you don't need.
Yeah.
And the energy source itself, whilst that is incredibly unsustainable, and switching to battery technology can shift a whole generation of researchers, entrepreneurs, and everything else to develop that much cleaner technology, that's only one piece of the puzzle. The development of the machine itself, that's what we need to disrupt as well. I mean, Unity's basically almost made out of plants. It looks like a spaceship. It looks like a super futuristic thing, but it's made out of carbon fiber biocomposite, flax fiber biocomposite, sorry. So, you know, and bamboo interior and so forth. So it's basically made out of plants. It's vastly more advanced technology, vastly more beautiful of an experience, better performance because it's lighter and just better in every way. And what we want to be able to do is create an entirely new market so that we can have this same technological rush that we've just had with smartphones, but have that in automotive. Because if we can inspire that kind of rush, if we can make it financially viable for big auto companies to pivot, then in another 5 or 10 years, Biggie, we're going to have spaceships driving around all over the streets, and that's a world that I want to live in, man.
Yeah.
I mean, more sustainable, funner, you know, no traffic jams, no bullshit parking problems, just freaking spaceships driving around everywhere. That will be badass. We need
driving
to have
themselves,
that rate.
right?
Exactly.
You didn't mention like this autonomous vehicle designed that way from the ground up.
Exactly. We're going to start with self-delivery functions, so you can have a car on demand and all that kind of thing. And the barrier, the gap to being able to do that is so much closer. If there's nobody in the car and it just delivers itself to you, you don't have ethic problems, safety problems, performance problems. The technology is just much easier. The car can avoid areas, it can go slower, it can pull over if it feels unsafe, and it can deliver itself to you. So the end result is way less cars on the road, way less need for parking. I mean, it's just vastly better in every way.
Yeah. Okay, we talked about some added features too, like there's the package with the projector, so if you wanted to throw up some street art, or some temporary street art on a wall at a party you throw, or municipal Wi-Fi, you know, in the car. Maybe a city dashboard that's actually, if you're not driving, you can pay attention to what's happening in your city and participate in that way.
We're doing some projects supported by the European Union and the city of Lund, and we're also looking at some other cities, I mean London and a bunch of others that are interested in getting involved in terms of electrifying the streets, self-parking at shopping malls and so forth, the self-delivery. We have a lot of really cool applied research that's underway, but it's really important to know, please do not think this is some 5 or 10 year away from the market thing. No. This is stuff that's really close to market. We have the technology already. We just need to get it out there and start disrupting things.
And you're taking pre-orders now, right?
We weren't going to take pre-orders. We got to finalize our prototype, but there's so much pressure from people that just say we want this to happen. I mean, we got people in Sweden, a couple of generally Ferrari-owned people in Sweden that just say, look, we want this to happen. We want a new electric car company in Scandinavia. So we want to lay down, just a couple of €1,000 for our pre-order. They got to wait a year and a half to get a new Ferrari anyway. So we're taking pre-orders now by popular demand.
So we're soft launching here basically this weekend. You flew in, we said like, let's go for it. Soft launch at Flow Festival. Yes, let's go rock and roll. We talked about the real launch though happening at the UN Conference on Climate Change in Paris this December.
The development of Unity is a global collaboration. There's people all over the world working on this. We've got engineers in India, we've got a design team in Portugal, we've got communications help from all over the world. And actually the discussion that we had was, we're not ready, I wasn't ready, everything's not ready. And Biggie just said, bullshit, get your ass to Finland. Let's rock and roll this. I mean, what are you trying to do? Launch Mercedes or launch Ford Motors? No, we're trying to do something different, something authentic. So just get your ass over here and let's just drop it.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing, so I appreciate that, Mr. Stardust.
Yes, sir. I can't wait to see, so one of the thoughts that I had in this, and I think it's already built in, but it was, how has this become a co-created culture? Yes, it's a vehicle, but how does it become a co-created culture? And like, how can we do distributed assembly or manufacturing on this thing? How can we get people to customize their Unity? How can we use Unity as a rallying point to do more than just get from point A to point B? right? How does this become something that's participatory as a company culture, and people take ownership for the future? And that just happens to be through, you know, getting involved with this car company.
What we've found so far is the collective intelligence, harnessing collective intelligence and starting with the co-creation culture, is just because every single person that we talk to about this, that we convey the purpose to and the message to, everybody says we want to help, we want to get involved. So when you have so much energy, that's where you can come up with something really special. But in terms of that's in the conceptual development and the pre-development, but in terms of when it's actually on the market, how we want to engage people, again, it's really important to know we don't have any that roaring engine. We don't have any patents. We don't want any patents. We want to keep it entirely open source, entirely transparent.
Do you think that we could, instead of, like, since electric cars are noiseless, that we could just put in a set of sounds, maybe a house track or something that would come with your general car or something?
We digress a little here, but to be honest, the European Union has set out a mandate that by 2020, all electric cars must have a noise because of blind people that can't hear them coming. So we actually have this under development where you get to choose your own noise. If you want, like, woo, 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 or psh, 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 you get to choose it because it's the law by 2020.
Could it be a Spotify channel?
That's cool. Absolutely.
Okay.
And we were actually
or SoundCloud channel.
We were thinking you could record your own, so you can still go. And you can have if you want to drive a Mustang, right? It's the law. You got to be able to do it. But I just want to cover. I want to cover that makerspace question that you said there before. We were actually in Oslo at a big event, and I was talking to some investors that are sitting on, like, I won't name any names, but they're sitting on, like, multi-billion-dollar funds, and they've been in the car industry and so forth. Of course, they're really excited about this, and they said, you know what you could do? You could make it. You could release new steering wheel and so forth, and then people could buy the new steering wheel, so you had this recurring revenue. And because of our culture of openness and engaging people and our agenda, it was so simple to just say, why? Why would we release, for example, a new steering wheel? The profit margin is going to be, let's say, $14. Wouldn't you want to empower people out there to go and design their own 3D printed so they can have a freaking Batman steering wheel, right? And can you imagine the impact that'll have? Much more than the $14. People will feel empowered. People will be engaged with it.
Come check out what I made.
Exactly.
Be a 4-year-old or whatever. Like, look what I made for you, Dad.
You know, openness and engaging people is just a much better way to run a business. Period.
Okay. So how do people find you? How do they find Unity? How do people find Unity?
You need to go to facebook.com/IamUnity. Unity is spelled with an I, U-N-I-T-I. Twitter @IamUnity, or go to IamUnity.com. #IamUnity.
All right, y'all. This has been another great feature. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Stardust.
Rock on, Helsinki.